Hello, and welcome to the Delusional Boyfriend Book Club. My name is Courtney.
I'm Phoebe.
And we'll be your hosts today. Today we're covering March's romance novel of the month, our reverse harem of the month, which is Fatal Felons by Elle Thorpe. And it is the third and final book in the trilogy for the St. View Prison series.
Yes, it's very exciting.
I am so happy to be wrapping up my first reverse harem. I am absolutely addicted to this genre now.
It's so fun.
I guess I'll go right into the spoiler-free summary and review. So this is an MMFM story. It's the third one in the series. Like I said, it is considered a dark romance, and it takes place between a woman and the prisoner she's trying to prove his innocence of, the prison guard, and his lawyer.
Yeah.
So that's our kind of setup. In the first book, we get the murder of the main character's sister, and then the subsequent locking up of her ex-boyfriend, who our main character has feelings for. And then we have her meeting the prison guard and the lawyer. And then in the second book, we actually have a prison riot in the first book. In the second book, we have the resolution of the prison riot. And then in this third book, we have the prisoner who is broken out of prison after getting the death sentence, and all of the other characters aiding and abetting him. So that's where we pick up for this book.
Mm-hmm. Okay, you want to get into it?
Let's get right into it.
Okay, so we're still in that solitary cell, and Heath is changing into Rose's uniform. He really doesn't want to go. Everyone's making him think, you got to get out of here. You have to go. So Heath runs. He's running through the streets of St. View. We're in his POV. He's super stressed, obviously, like everybody would be in this scenario. And he feels like a car coming up on him, and he's freaking out. And then we find out it's Liam and May. And so they pick Heath up, and then there's trying to get back to Rose's cabin. But there is a police blockade out of all the roads out of St. View. So now they know they can't go that way. Liam peels out. He starts driving like a madman. Police are following him. And then he pulls into his mom's house. So he loses the cops. And he's like, I got a place, we can go. And they go to Liam's mom's house, which his mom lives in St. View.
And they were estranged. So yeah. Liam had moved out of his mom's house in high school when
middle school.
Like middle school.
To live with his grandpa.
When his grandpa takes him in and offers him the tuition for a private school and a nice car. Yeah. So he is on pretty rocky terms with his mom, who he last saw when he was volunteering at a homeless shelter.
In the first book.
And she showed up to just have a free meal because she's so down bad and hard up on cash and living in this poor area of town. So they're kind of breaking into this house.
Yeah.
She's not there and they're hiding out.
Yes. And they break in, but Liam has a key. She just hasn't changed the locks in, 20 years.
Or the bedding.
15 years. Or the bedding. It's so sweet. His room is still set up for him and Hayden, but when they're kids, poor thing. She just loves them, but doesn't know how to be a good mom.
It made me wonder because in one of the earlier books, he talks about how his mom got a brand new pair of sheets from a thrift store, that somebody just donated a brand new pair of sheets. And I was like, I wonder if it's that pair.
Yeah.
It's so sad.
Yeah, it is sad. So they get there, they're hiding out. They keep seeing sirens and hearing them, but nobody comes to get them. So they settle down to go to bed. There's 2 twin beds. So Liam and May get into one twin bed. Heath gets into the other. And they're trying to go to sleep. But, of course, there's so much adrenaline and stress. Everybody's freaking out. So they can't sleep. And
what do you think they do?
So then, instead, they fuck. It's great.
And this whole time, I can't stop thinking about Rose. So when they're breaking out of prison, Liam beats up Rose to make it look like Heath beat him up. And Rose is literally concussed, in a hospital.
Rose, we just left him, almost passed
dead
out in a solitary cell, right?
Yes.
Yeah.
And so he's just, could
rough.
Be dead. And all of his partners are, in this house banging it out while he's recuperating.
But, Liam had to beat up his friend, so he's also down bad.
Everybody's really run out of luck
unwell.
Here.
And the thing that they need to make them feel better is distraction.
Yeah.
And so Liam and May bang, and then finally May does anal with Heath.
Oh,
and
yeah.
Courtney is really upset because they don't explicitly talk about the use of lube.
In any of the fucking scenes with any of the people, there's just like, there's no lube, and I will tell you what, that's mission impossible. It's not going to happen, and it's definitely not going to be pleasurable.
It's just, I told her, I think it's implied lube because lube's not sexy, so we just like don't necessarily always need to talk about it. But you're right, you need it. You need it.
Kind of disagree. I don't find lube unsexy. I guess like, I don't know.
I think it just takes you out of the moment sometimes.
Yes, but
and that's why it's not involved. But there are other stories by other authors where it is involved. So
I feel like it either takes you out of the story when it's mentioned because it's like such a practical matter that's not very sexy, or it takes you out of the story that it's not mentioned because you're like, this is literally this is not realistic. Either way, she does finally get it in the back door, and I was so happy for her. Yeah. But again, we're working with her experience having been like one or two fingers, and I'm like, gal, the preparation you would need for this. Like, girl, you, for the size of these boys, as you've described them, you would need to be walking around with a plug up you for the full 24 hours before this. But okay, I'll take it. I'll take a win when I get a win.
Yeah, just accept this and move on.
So then Liam's mom comes home.
Yeah, so the next morning, they're making breakfast. They are thinking, ooh, let's do that again. And then Liam's mom shows up with this guy who is her boyfriend, but we find out it's also Liam's dad. But wait. Huge plot twist. Did you see this coming at all?
I did not see this
I did not see this coming either. We find out that Liam's grandpa is QB, who is Liam's dad, was her boyfriend in high school. And Liam's grandpa actually raped her and got her pregnant. And then they blamed it on QB, sent him away so he couldn't tell anybody. And so that's why Liam was this nothing. And then when his grandpa realized he actually had potential to be just like him, super smart, super driven, that's when he pulled him out of St. View.
Yeah.
But he was like a dirty little secret to the family. And so Liam finds this out and finds out it's not his dad, it's his half brother, and his mom was assaulted, and that's what created him. And he goes into full mentee B, as you would.
Oh yeah, they're like all running away together, and Liam is like, I actually have to piece out of here. I just found out that the man I always blamed my whole life for being a deadbeat is actually not my father. My grandpa who raised me.
Yeah, who I thought saved me from the St. View slums is actually like my mother's abuser. It's so sad. It's so heartbreaking for him.
Because he really did reject his mother for the man who assaulted her. He was like, you can't provide the life I want, so I'm going to go live with my grandpa.
So they all leave his mom's house and they head to a clearing that it's about a 5-mile walk is what they estimate to Rose's cabin. And Liam uses the excuse of, well, I can't leave my BMW here. It will be too obvious. So he can go home and continue his super spiral mental breakdown. Heath and May walk through the woods back to Rose's cabin. And then Ro finally gets home from the hospital. We find out that he was in the hospital.
Yes, and Heath sees him, and Heath is just like, May runs up to him, but then Heath runs up and like lifts up his shirt to see how bad the damage is.
It's so sad.
But Heath like loves Ro. Like, when he sees Ro, he like goes over to take care of him, and like he really dotes on Ro, which is so sweet because Ro's such like a grumpy guy that it's just,
I know,
to see somebody like baby him.
And I love that Heath is the big, burly, tattooed, like, you think he's going to be the bad boy of the bunch, but he's so not.
Oh, no, he's the most, like, emotional, and, like, May is always, like, doting on him. Like, he's kind of a baby. He's kind of a baby girl.
Yes, he is. Very baby girl for a big, giant man.
But he really does, like, he's so protective of Ro when they're in the prison together. He breaks up, like, he tries to break up the fights that Ro ends up in. And, like, at this point, when Ro was getting beat up by Liam in the jail cell, he was just, like, unable to watch it happen or participate in it. And then here, when he sees him out of the hospital, he's just, like, so worried for him. Like, he's really a big softie.
He has big feelings.
Big feelings.
Sure.
Big muscles guy. And big feelings.
So they have their little reunion, and then they're all really worried about Liam, but they have a few days off, so they enjoy that. And then they can't get in touch with Liam. It's finally time to go back to work. Ro goes to try to talk to Liam on his way back to work, and he won't answer him, or he's at the office. He can't get in touch with him. So Ro goes to work, and then he is put on, administrative duty because he's hurt. And we find out that he's doing releases, and Zai is getting released early.
And just a reminder, Zai is Ro's wife who died, her baby daddy. So the Rose child, Ripley, is actually the biological child of this guy, Zai. And Zai killed Riley, the wife, Rose's wife who died. He killed her in the last prison that they worked in. So there's all of that history. And now he has to, because Zai was never convicted of that crime, his time is up. He's going to be released. And he knows that once he signs that paperwork and sends him out into the world, the first person he's going to go looking for is his son.
Is Ripley. So Ro, at the end of his shift, he's freaking out. He shows up to the cabin, tells May and Heath what's going on. They encourage him, you have to go get Ripley. So he shows up at Norma's house. He tells her the situation. He offers to bring Norma back to the cabin with him as well. Norma says, I'm an old woman. I can take care of myself. I got old Betsy. That's what she calls her shotgun.
Oh my God.
And she says, leave me here, but he's your child. Ripley is yours. You're his daddy. Take him. So they take Ripley back to the house, and it's really sweet. He already knows May, and Ro just loves him so much. And then they have a little family, and Liam comes back. They go to his apartment. Liam's wasted, or May goes. He's wasted. He won't talk to her. She's really upset. But finally they get Liam to come back, and they think, oh, everything's better. We're a happy family. They have this intimate moment all together.
And then the son, he immediately warms up to Liam and immediately warms up to Heath. And all of them are playing around with him. And it is really so wholesome.
It's so cute. And so there's this moment where they're outside and Heath and Ro are kissing. May's gone, Liam's gone. Heath and Ro kiss in front of Ripley. And then Heath is like, oh my God, I'm sorry. And Ro is just like, yep, you can kiss whoever you want. This is all good.
And then
which I love.
Ripley goes, do you love him?
Do you love him?
He goes, Grandma says you can love whoever you want.
It's so cute.
It's so adorable. So they all get together for this night. They put Ripley to bed, and then they go out to have a bonfire.
Yes, they have family orgy at the bonfire.
Yeah, well, the child is asleep inside. They
Yeah.
have a baby monitor. They know he's fine. But I was like, risky business. We're going to take the first night that we have the kid with a killer on the loose, and we're two killers on the loose, because we got Zai, the guy who killed the kid's mom, and we've got the actual killer of Jayla, who we have yet to find out, and we're just going to trust the baby monitor while we have an orgy by the fire. So a little suspension of disbelief there, but it does lead to some good times, so I was fine with it.
Yeah, it was fine.
We brushed right past
it. It was fine. It's a good scene. And I'm like, you can only be so quiet with 4 people.
Oh no, they're not quiet. They're like a pack of wolves out there.
That's what I'm saying. Can you imagine if they were inside?
No, they definitely had to take that out.
Yeah.
They had to take that.
There's a scene later where they're inside on the living room carpet, and I'm just like, oh, be so for real. That child's waking up.
Be so fucking for real.
He's gonna walk out here and see his mom getting railed 3 ways.
And she, the author mentioned, she's just like, Ripley's never woken up in the middle of the night, so we're probably fine. I'm like, what kid in what world isn't waking up at just the most inconvenient of times? Who trusts this? Who would trust this? But anyway, so
you have to make sexy time.
You do. When you have 3 husbands.
Hello, it's all the time.
Yes. So she is sure that she's infertile. So not only is there 3 guys going in and out of her, but they are all raw dogging her
constantly.
She's cream pied, cream filled.
She's just a Twinkie. Okay?
At this point, she's a bottle of half and half. She is fully 100% creamed out. Yeah. So they have this excellent time out at the fireplace where we finally this is the first time they're all together.
Yeah.
And I made a prediction last time of how they would all be together. And I did say Ro in the back, Heath in the front, Liam watching. And I was almost right.
Yeah,
but
it was close.
It was Liam watching, Ro in the front, Heath in the back.
Yeah.
And it was great.
Yeah.
I will say that. It was really fun. Yeah. Like,
and then they have, they shower, they're going to bed, and May and Liam have this moment, and Liam is off still. Mm-hmm. Like, he's there, but he's not there. And it feels like everything he's saying to her is kind of a goodbye.
It's like loaded.
But she's also blissed out from having like 5 orgasms, so she's not really thinking that hard about it.
She's not thinking straight.
No. And so they all go to bed. She wakes up in the morning. There's flowers on the counter. Liam's gone. And Heath has bad feelings about that. He just thinks something is wrong. And May goes and she can't find Liam. And so Heath is home with Ripley and Ro, and Heath just gets this really bad feeling. And so first he finds a motorbike in the shed, and begs Ro to let him go for a ride.
He's like, I've been locked up in prison for a while.
Please, this has a full face shield. I just really need to go for a ride right now.
And I need to find Liam. It's a great excuse for me to actually leave the house for the first time.
So he goes and he gets a sinking feeling with Liam and what's happening with his grandpa. And he finds Liam at his grandparents' house / his biological father. And Liam is threatening his grandpa. He's gone there to kill his grandpa. End it. And Heath shows up, breaks it up, risks everything because he's a freaking escaped convict.
And now the grandpa has seen his face.
Yeah, the grandma's seen him.
They both seen him.
And we find out that in the first book, when Heath is getting the confession beaten out of him, he has this moment where he goes, I did it. And he's not talking about Jayla, but he's talking about, I did it, I killed him, in his mind. And we find out in this scene that what happened was he had killed his abusive father.
So he's breaking up this fight between Liam and his grandpa, who's his real dad.
Yeah.
And he's like, don't do this. You don't want to do this. And he pulls him out of the house. And in the car, he's like, I'm going to go back in and finish the job. And he's like, wait, I need to tell you my backstory because I promise you'll regret it.
Yeah. He's like, even if they deserve it, you don't ever get to take it back.
Yeah, taking a life is not something you want to do. And so Liam, it's so nice because they don't have a romantic connection at all, Liam and Heath, but Liam trusts him in this moment. And he's like, okay, well, because he's like, you need to go. He's like, what do I do? And he's like, you go home to your family. You go home to May, you go home to me and Ripley and to Ro, and you go back to your family. And he's like, family? Like, I have family? And he's like, yeah, we're your family. And once you do this, you'll never be the same man. So just go be with us. Don't alter your life forever. We can get past this. And he trusts him. And that's how you see that they have maybe not a romantic connection, but they have a familial bond that like he trusts. Yeah. And I thought that was super wholesome.
Yeah. And I think that those two needed that moment because Liam was feeling like such a failure for not being able to help Heath with his case. Yeah. Getting him death row. Like he has all of these things that he's feeling like he's failing everyone around him that he cares about. And then he's failed his mom because he took his grandpa's side. And so he needed that to kind of repair his relationship with Heath a little bit.
And also he had said something to Heath about how he was jealous of his relationship with Ro. And he's like, well, I know you don't have that kind of relationship with Ro, but you're his best friend. So Heath is continually reminding him his value and his worth. And just, again, being a total fucking softie. I love Heath.
I know.
He's very cute in this
He's just like a giant teddy bear.
He's a big teddy bear. And he's taking care of his people. Yeah. And he's the oldest of all of them. So he is kind of like daddy. Like,
yeah, he is daddy for sure.
Like making sure everyone's okay.
100%. So then we are with May and Ro. They're at a gas station and they run into Zai. He's released. He threatens them. He talks all this game about how he's going to get Ripley. And after that happens, the three of them go to her dad's funeral. Yeah. Liam, Ro, and May go to her dad's funeral that his mistress puts on. And she meets her half-siblings, which is where we find out that her half-sister knew Jayla and ran into her the night
of her murder
and said she was with a woman.
At a hotel.
Going into the hotel. And so then we're like, what?
And May pulls out a picture of her best friend, Tori, and goes, was it by chance this woman?
Yeah, and she confirms. So now we're like, Tori and Jayla? What? But while they're at the funeral, Heath is home with Ripley and he calls Ripley. You can hear his cries. They're freaking out. Is everything okay? He just really misses his grandma and he needs his Spider-Man toy. So they say, okay, we'll get grandma to talk to you. They call Norma. She's not answering. They're like, we'll just swing by. And they go to the house to get Ripley's Spider-Man toy and they find Norma and she's been murdered. She's been strangled to death, clearly by Zai. So
and
sad.
She's right by her gun safe.
And she's right by her safe trying to get to Betsy.
Tragic.
It's so sad. Poor Ripley. He just can't catch a break.
Ripley's mom is dead. His grandma is dead. His biological father's a murderer.
Yeah, it is just
his adopted dad couldn't take care of him for the first few years of his life. So he's just like, I mean, catching no breaks.
No breaks. It's very sad.
Poor kid. He's like, what, 4 years old? Ripley?
Yeah, he's 4.
4, yeah.
Yep.
So he'll probably remember this all too.
100%. That's the hardest part. He's not like a baby that will forget it. He's going to remember a lot of this trauma. It's really sad. So that happens. They race home and then Ripley starts talking about his friend. That he's, my friend. I've been hanging out with my friend down in the woods. And everyone thinks, oh my God, Zai is here.
Been hanging around.
He's been hanging around. So they go out searching for any sign of Zai, anyone there, and Ro is freaking out, so he won't stop. Heath and him are looking through the woods.
And they haven't told the kid that his grandma's dead. They're like, the murderer's on the loose. We know who we're looking for. This must have been who because he kept running over in the grass when in the last few days he's been like playing over in the clearing. And they're like, oh my gosh, he must have been talking to his biological dad, this murderer. So they go out on the hunt.
Yeah. And they can't find anything. It's been hours. It's getting dark. And Ro just won't give it up. And so Heath keeps searching with him.
Is Liam still at the house with May?
Yeah.
So Liam, May, and Ripley are at the house.
Are in the house.
Heath and Ro are just around in the woods trying to find this murderer.
And Ro just won't give it up. And Heath is getting really frustrated with that. And then finally, all that frustration explodes into sexual chemistry. And so Heath blows Ro. He's like, you need to relax. Yeah. And so he gives him a blowy in the woods. And then they start making out. And then finally, Heath fucks Ro up against a tree.
Yes,
so good.
He blows Ro, and Ro is like looking at him like, I'm gonna, and he's like, can I do what I want to do? And he's like, whatever you want to do, I trust you. And he turns him around, presses him up against that tree, and takes him. And this is my favorite trope always, is when somebody, they're getting together for the first time, they're like, you are so tight, I almost came right away. And Heath is just like, hold it together, man. Like, I've got to give this guy, like, blow this guy's mind. I cannot come right now. But he does totally. He's like, oh, you're so tight. And I'm like, no, duh, you're so fucking tight. He's never been fucked in the ass and there's no lube. Yet again, we don't even have anyone spitting on anything. We're just like dry as a graham cracker. Either way, I was so happy. This is such a good scene.
And one of my favorite tropes is when the man comes and then like a really short period goes by where they really shouldn't
be able to get erection.
Hard again, but then they do. Yeah. And then they come again. I love when that happens. And that happens in the scene. And Ro comes all over the tree.
All over the tree. And
it's amazing.
The author's so good to us because she's always like, it got on his like abs. And I'm just like, oh God, that is my favorite visual, is a man just exploding on their own stomach. I'm sorry. I'm sorry. But it's like real nice. Coming on a tree, I'll take it. But yeah, this scene, those two together, Ro mentions it. He's like, I felt like we were back in the closet in the prison when they first had their like first one-on-one moment together. And I've been kind of dying for them to get some privacy. Yeah. So this is a really good opportunity for that. Yeah. And then they go back to the house and I'm just, oh my God, the way she describes it too, she's of him just like coming so deep inside his body. And then I'm just like, oh, I could just imagine Ro walking back all cream filled. Yeah. So good.
And so now May is trying to get in touch with Tori. She's been trying to get in touch with Tori this whole book because of what happened in the courtroom with Liam accusing Will of having maybe an affair with Jayla.
Refresher, Liam's last-ditch effort to get Heath out of the death penalty was to accuse May's best friend's husband of having an affair with her sister, and saying that that's the motive that Will would have had to kill her sister, Jayla.
Yeah.
So after after Liam accuses him of that, Tori and Will completely cut May out. And they're like, if this is who you're hanging out with, someone who would accuse us like that, we want nothing to do with you.
Yeah, well, May just hasn't heard from Tori at all.
Yeah.
Will is saying shit like that.
Yes.
And Tori's not saying anything. And then May finally gets to the point where she's like, you have to let me talk to Tori. And she finds out that Tori's checked herself into a care facility run by the church. And after she meets her half-sister and finds out Tori was with Jayla, she goes to visit, and there's all these weird rules, and she has to say exactly what they're going to speak about. They can't talk about anything else. And she finds out that it's a gay conversion therapy. And she's trying to save her marriage with Will. She's checked herself in because she was having an affair with Jayla.
Yep. I just have to say, I was very happy for some lesbian representation, because May has she's got a lot of interest in all these different men, but she doesn't look twice at a lady, which I always do. And so I always love a little lesbian representation, but I hate when it's the dead lesbian syndrome or like the barrier gaze. So it was sad to me that in order for this plot to work out, we had to kill one of the girls off. So Tori was really in love with Jayla.
But we don't know that yet.
No, we don't know that yet. But she does tell May once she comes to visit. She's like, it was not... It was real. It was real. Yeah. And I've never felt... And she does, because she gets away from the doctor and they are both in the bathroom, and she's like, it's not your fault. You know, you've always loved your husband. She's like, no, I haven't. I have known since I was younger that I'm attracted to women. Yeah. And
you got married so young. It's not your fault. And she's like, no, I've known the whole time.
I've known the whole time. Yeah. Like, this was not, I wasn't confused. I knew who I wanted to be with. And when I got the chance to be with somebody like Jayla, I fell for her, and I betrayed my husband, and I owe it to him and to myself to
our child, because I have a pretty new baby.
Mm-hmm. She's like, I owe it to them to try to not be gay anymore. Let's see if this conversion therapy works. Just leave me here. And oh my gosh, that was just so sad. And in the last book, you asked me, you said, do you think Will was having an affair with Jayla? And I was like, absolutely goddamn not, because there's no way that Jayla is the kind of monster who would fuck her friend's husband after she had a baby. But I find no issue, I have no qualms with
her fucking her friend who just had a baby.
Yes, because she just had a baby. Obviously, if she's not getting enough support from her husband, then she should go out and about, as you should. She should go find somebody to take care of her. Yeah. So I was actually very happy with this resolution. I didn't see it coming, which I honestly, after it happened, I was so surprised. I was like, girl, you always assume a lesbian. You are always reading too much in.
Hoping people are lesbian.
Always. And in this one, I just didn't see coming.
Yeah, so it didn't cross your mind.
Kudos to Elthorpe for a good plot twist.
I know, right? It was good. So then we're kind of at this part in the book where the four of them are this happy family. Everything's good. But they're, nervous about Zai being around the property. But they're going to still have a good family time. So there's a beautiful day. They have this beach day out at the lake. They have the best day ever. They're swimming. They're having fun with Ripley. He's having a great time. And the day is nearing the end. Ripley is falling asleep. And so they gather up all the stuff and they're bringing it inside. And Heath is going to store some stuff in the shed. And he finds a knife sitting out on the picnic table.
And this is actually the second object that nobody's questioned how it got there. So this knife and then those flowers from earlier, people just kind of assumed that when you've got four adults living in a house together, somebody left something out.
Yeah. And so they, he's suspicious, but they're moving on. And then all of a sudden he hears a scream and he goes running down to the lake, and Zai is there. And he has May, right?
He has Ripley, but May is screaming.
Mm-hmm. And Zai is there, and he says, I'm taking Ripley, or I'm calling the police to come get Heath, because he's a convicted felon.
So let me take the kid, or I'm going to call you guys all in for aiding and abetting.
Yeah, and they obviously don't want to give him Ripley. They're freaking out. They don't know what to do. It's this whole confrontation, and then out of nowhere, this blood goes shing across.
Do you know what it was? Because he's holding the gun to his kid's forehead.
Yeah.
And he says, don't you want to play with guns? I can take you home with me. And
I'll teach you all about guns.
He says, I'll show you what it's like to shoot a man and watch his brains out the back. And then at that moment,
blood sprays.
Stab in the neck.
And who has appeared? Vincent!
I love Vincent.
Yes. So we find out in this moment, Ripley is happy to see Vincent, and we find out that his friend that he had been meeting in the woods, it wasn't an imaginary friend, which they've convinced themselves at this point that it had to have been an imaginary friend. It wasn't Zai, it was Vincent.
And Vincent had just been watching to make sure everybody was okay because he had escaped from the psych ward.
Yeah, which was a rumor going around the prison, but nobody believed it. And then once they see Vincent, they realize, oh, Tabor, the new warden from the second book, he would never let this go public, that he not only lost one prisoner, he lost two convicted murderers.
And then my favorite part about this scene is as soon as he stabs a guy's neck and he picks Ripley up and Ripley's like kind of hugging him because he's familiar with him.
Yeah.
He wipes the blood off of Ripley's face and then he goes, I'm sorry, I just couldn't listen to that man talk like this to this kid. I was raised like that and I would never let this kid.
It's no environment for a child.
It's no environment for a child.
I love him. He's so funny.
He's so like polite. His manners are so good.
Yeah,
he's just like he's very considerate. Even though we've watched him kill 2.5 people, because one guy he did stab in the eye in the first book.
Oh, he's a he's a murderer.
He's just killing a lot of folks. But very considerate. I mean, a gentleman and a scholar, because he was trying to get his. He was trying
to learn.
He was trying to go to May's class,
and so he's been hanging out from afar to protect May and Heath because he feels they're his people after everything that happened in the prison riot and this kinship that he felt with them. And so he's been just keeping an eye from afar. But he also reveals that Zai has already called the police. Yep. They're on the way. Heath needs to go. He says, I'll clean up the scene. Leave it to me. It never takes me less than 50 or more than 15 minutes to clean a scene. And so the family starts freaking out. They run inside. They get Ripley in the shower. They take off all their clothes that are covered in Zai's blood. They burn their clothes. Heath runs in Liam's car and immediately hits a police blockade. And he gives himself up. He doesn't want to die. So Heath gets arrested. And then we jump to the next chapter and the police show up at the cabin.
To arrest all of the adults.
So May, Liam, and Ro all get arrested. And, they're saying, my child's here. We can't just leave him. And they say he'll be placed with the foster family. And that is their nightmare situation. And Ripley's freaking out crying. And when they're getting loaded in the cars, May hears him yell, Mommy. And it's so heartbreaking because it's like her dream to be a mom, but she doesn't think she can have kids. Oh, it's so gets me. It gets me.
And he's also yelling out like daddy to Ro, who he's been calling Ro for his whole life instead of calling him dad. And all of them have admitted to wanting to have kids. And all of this is so cute. But also I am reminded at this point, he's known May. He's like known her for 4 months and he's calling her mommy. And I'm just like, again, I'll suspend my disbelief because it's adorable.
Yeah. I mean, everything's on an expedited timeline when you're,
on death row?
Yeah.
Yeah. I do think it's like 4 months the whole story takes place in.
I think it's less.
Yeah. It's like
I think he's in prison for like 2.5 months.
Oh, because
they go through it at the end.
At the end. Yeah.
Okay. So they all get arrested. Liam says, nobody say anything. I'm on it. I'll get us lawyers. So when May gets her one phone call, she calls Tori and she says, I know you've checked yourself in. I know you're at this care facility. I appreciate that. But Ripley's at the house alone. We've all been arrested. He can't go into foster care. He can't go through even more trauma. You have to help me. So when they get bailed out, they get back to the house. Just the three of them. Obviously, Heath's not getting bailed out. He's in solitary again.
Yeah.
And they get back to the house and Tori's there with Ripley. She's left. May is so thankful. And they have this reunion and they decide to have a big chocolate pancake breakfast. And they make all these pancakes. They're outside eating. And all of a sudden, they see a car pulling up. Mm-hmm. And everyone freaks out for a second. But May realizes, oh, it's just Will.
Just my husband.
And, well, Tori's husband.
Oh, yeah. Tori.
And So she's, oh, it's just Will. And he gets out of the car, and Isaac, their baby, is just screaming bloody murder in the car, screaming his head off. And Will's just ignoring him and comes over and starts berating Tori. How could you leave? You're trying to ruin our family. Are you slutting around? Are you fucking all these people? You're letting May ruin you. And he's just accusations everywhere. It's so upsetting.
Yeah.
So upsetting.
He's completely tearing her down. He's like, you've made vows to me. You promised to be there for me as my wife. And here you are. She like had been talking to Ro when he pulled up, and he's like, you're fucking her. When am I going to hear the last of you saving her from the riot? And that's all I ever hear about. And he then kind of launches into this. They realize he's drunk. And she's like, were you drunk driving with our kid? And instead of acknowledging that, he starts going into, it should have been you.
Yeah, he said, I should have been you. And she says, what do you mean? And he said, I thought if I dealt with the problem with you and Jayla, that would be it and that would be over. And she says, what do you mean dealt with Jayla?
And then he full on fucking says it. He's like,
full on in a rage, confesses that he
slit her throat and watched her die.
Slit her throat, watched her choke on her own blood and die because she was fucking his wife. And then, while they're freaking out over that confession, May realizes Tori's demeanor change. And she starts kind of coddling him. And she's like, what the fuck are you doing? And then she realizes that Will has a knife. And then he freaks out. He stabs Tori.
As she's like, we can work this out.
I love you. Because she is like trying to talk him off the ledge.
De-escalate.
Yes. And then he says, I killed Jayla. She says, you killed her. I loved her. And then he starts freaking out.
Yeah.
And then we find out it was more than just an affair. And then he stabs Tori. And then the guys jump on him immediately. They get him down to the ground. And they call the police. The ambulance is really far out. So then they call Perry because she's closer, the nurse.
The nurse from the jail.
From the prison. And so she comes to help. And they go to the hospital. Will gets arrested. And is it Ro that gives him his Catholic guilt?
Oh, yeah.
I
right?
think
it's Ro. And Ro is just like, you better go and you better confess everything. Because if I know anything about Christianity, if you don't confess your sins, you're not forgiven. And the fact that you would have let a innocent man die on death row for your sins is fucked. And so at that point, they are just hoping he'll do the right thing. Mm-hmm. It's also, they have all the witnesses to this. So basically, even if he didn't confess, I think we could have proved that he was guilty.
But he does. He gets arrested. Bay goes to the hospital. Tori's okay. She's awake. Perry's there, which you're like, girl, what you doing here?
You just hanging out?
And then we jump to May has to go to Heath's trial.
But she knows that her best friend is in good hands with Perry, and also that she's coming out of surgery and that she's going to live.
Yep, she's all good. And so they go to Heath's trial to see what they're going to do about, because he's now innocent. Will admitted to what he did. So he's innocent of the murder, but he's guilty of breaking out of a maximum security prison.
Which comes with a sentence of 10 years at maximum. If he's found guilty, the judge could put him back in prison for 10 years just for breaking out. Also, all three of the others would be accomplices. So they're also
getting charged.
Yes, they are also going to have to face the judge.
So at the hearing, the judge says, I find you guilty. May and Ro and Liam all freak out. And he's like, if you could just shut up and let me
bangs his gavel.
Yeah, he's like, let me speak. And so he says, as I was saying, and he goes on, you did it. You're guilty of this. And I sentence you to, and then he lists off the exact amount of time that Heath has already spent in prison. And he says, if it wasn't clear, that's time served.
Yep.
And I dismiss the charges against your partners. You've been through a lot.
and we owe you an apology, the whole city,
Yes.
which the city does, because there's just incompetence running
everywhere.
through the
It's like
justice
a
system.
biased police force, a biased judge, like expediting. Yeah, it's all bad.
Forced confession.
Yeah.
Like there was so many things going wrong here. So the judge is like, I owe you an apology, and to your partners who are supporting you here today, you guys are kind of the only ones who had any idea what was actually going on. So more power to you for breaking your man out of jail. And it was nice to see that that kind of Hail Mary that Liam threw in the courtroom, blaming Will, like he was on to it.
He was on to something.
He had connected the dots and he was correct. So it was nice also at him as a lawyer to be like, still got a perfect record.
Oh, I still got it. So they all get to go. Their charges are released. The kids are with a family friend of Liam's and Rose, baseball family.
Yeah.
That have kids, and they offer to the kids want to have a sleepover. So the adults go, okay, it's time for some adult time.
Finally alone in the cabin.
Yes. So then the four of them immediately get to it.
Do you know what? I didn't realize this trope of only one bed.
Yes.
In this cabin, it's like a 1-bedroom cabin.
It's two bedrooms.
One's the adults,
Ripley's
one's the kids.
room. Yeah.
So anytime they're in that cabin together, they're all forced right into proximity with each other.
Yes.
So they get home, and on the way home, Heath is like, May, your panties better be off by the time we get home, because I just had to go back into solitary, and I swear I'm not even gonna let you enter the door before I enter you. So they pull up to the house. They've both been like warming up in the car.
Yep.
And he parks the car, gets around to her side of the door, and starts fucking her right there in the driveway. Love an eager man. Knows what he wants.
Yeah, and then they get inside, and then Liam is fucking May.
Yep.
Ro is like eating her out while she's getting fucked by Liam, and Heath is fucking Ro.
Oh my god.
It's so good.
It's so good. And then May, like, because is May
doesn't realize it's happening because she's like in the moment with Liam.
Yeah.
And then she looks up and she sees it happening, and she's like, oh my god, that's hot.
It's so hot. Yeah, that's the best part, is when she gets the visual and she's like, oh, I could have come right then just from seeing those two together. They were so she says like primal, which I'm just like, okay.
Yeah, and I think it's like all like hard bodies and muscles.
Yes, and like there's nobody who in this man group, they don't feminize or make anyone like outwardly effeminate. So it is like 3 alpha dudes all in a room. So there's a lot going on, and I would definitely be impressed to look down at somebody eating me out and see that they were also being thrusted into, because it would take a lot of focus.
100%.
And a lot of lube that's not mentioned. And I'm just going to bring it up that one last time. there definitely would have needed to be lube in this scenario. I'll just leave it at that.
Oh, man. So funny. So then, we're on to happy family times, and May's having really bad cramps. It's normal for her, whatever. And then it turns out it's not normal. She's really down bad. They call an ambulance. Liam goes with her in the ambulance. Heath and Ro are going to meet them at the hospital. And it turns out she has appendicitis.
Yes. And she was like, I did think it was just period cramps, because I have a really irregular period. I have PCOS, which is why my doctor said that I was infertile in high school. And it's not that unusual. I haven't been getting my periods. It's probably just an awful period. And then they're like, no, your appendix is going to burst.
It's an appendicitis. Yeah. But also, she's pregnant.
Yeah, they're like, we're going to have to operate. Don't worry, it won't hurt you or the baby. And she's like, what baby? And they're like, happy news or bad or sad news. And she was like, great news.
Yeah.
Which I have a little qualm with this, because I like surprise pregnancies, not my favorite trope. And I do like it when the person already wants to be a parent. I don't like it when someone's like adamantly, I don't want to be a parent. Then they get pregnant and then they have to just like change their whole life plan. May already wanted to be a parent. All the men already wanted to be parents. So that all works out great for me. I was just a little bummed that there's like this representation of somebody with fertility issues who's like really secure in the fact that she's going to be okay in this life without having a biological child. And I felt like readers who have those issues were probably really relating to her in this moment. And then she gets this miracle baby, and it is lovely. And I like that resolution. But I was also just like, oh, that kind of sucks for the people who were reading this just like, oh, a character just like me, except for she gets a rainbow baby and I don't.
Yeah.
But either way, I'm always here for a rainbow baby.
Yes. And we were talking about this earlier, and I said, you know, when you're just getting raw dogged by 3 dudes constantly,
you're gonna get pregnant.
With no protection whatsoever. She's not on birth control. I mean, you're gonna get pregnant.
I should have seen it coming, but I assumed that her diagnosis, because she never names the diagnosis until this 3rd book. She says, a doctor diagnosed me in high school. So I was like, maybe it's a diagnosis that's like for sure. Like she has like a weird fallopian tubes or like something that's really fucked up where she just like does not have any
The
chance
diagnosis
at all.
actually was that her doctor was incompetent.
Incompetent, like everybody else in St. View. Because I, for one, have been diagnosed with PCOS. So have like 5 other women close to me in my life.
Yeah.
And none of them were told at 16, you have 0 chance of getting pregnant. Go ahead. Don't use birth control of any form with any partner you have in the future. So I was a little just... it took me a tiny bit out of it to be like, oh, the diagnosis was PCOS and not that she's like missing ovaries. Like I thought there would be something a little bit more definitive if she was that secure in the fact she wouldn't get preggers. But either way, I'm like, I have breeding kinks. So I'm like, get me pregnant.
I know. And then, so that's how the book ends. There is, on Elle Thorpe's website, she does bonus scenes for all the books. So there's a bonus chapter for this book. You haven't read it yet?
I haven't read it yet, and I love spoilers, so I'm going to let Phoebe explain it. But right now, if you are following along and you didn't know about the bonus chapter, go read it first before you finish the episode, because Princess is going to ruin some fun surprises for us right now.
Okay, ready?
Yes.
Set. Okay, so we're at Ripley's 5th birthday party.
Okay.
There is a surprise appearance from Spider-Man. May is asking the guys, oh, who organized this? And they are all looking at each other like, what are you talking about? And then we come to find out it's actually Vincent. He came to wish his friend happy birthday because, you know, Vincent can't hang around because he's trying not to put the family in danger.
Is this also foreshadowing that his book is the next book?
His book's the next book.
So he's he's transitioning us into his own story.
Yes. So we get a little Vincent appearance. That's super fun. And then also they have had the baby at this point, and so they are finding out who the dad is.
Boy or girl?
Boy, I think. Huh. I haven't read it in 2 years, so
damn it.
I could use a refresher.
The bonus chapter?
Yeah, it could be a girl. I can't remember.
Damn it. Okay, well.
I'm the worst.
Anyways, they do find out. No, don't Google it. They do find out the biological father is.
Yes, and the guys are all really excited to find out who it is, and we find out that it's Liam, and he's so happy because he wants to be, and like the guys are really happy for Liam because it really cements him in this foursome where he's really only has friendship with the boys and then a relationship with May. And so it just kind of like cements him into this a little bit more.
Yeah.
So it's great. It's really cute. And all the bonus chapters are fun. I'm pretty sure most of them have like a spicy scene. I can't remember, but she's pretty good about that.
If they got a whole nother bonus chapter that Heath would get to have his own baby too?
Probably. I can't remember. We find out later in the books, they talk about
that couple.
They like all the couples that happened before. They like come up in conversation because it's all one world. And I mean,
it's like a throwback.
If you know that there's another girl getting dicked down by 3 dudes at the same time, you've got things that you could talk about with no one else.
Yeah, that's like when May first meets the couple
Lacey.
from St. View High.
Yes.
She's just like, oh, so this is what goes on over here. I have some questions.
Interesting. And so, yeah, that becomes kind of a common theme. It's kind of fun. I love it. You love to see it and all their little happy families.
I love a callback.
Yes.
I love any callback. And I love a multiverse or like a bigger world where somebody stays, like you said, this author has no intention of like leaving St. View. She's built this town and she can jump around to different characters. And then of course those lives are going to be intertwined. And I always love that when an author has the foresight to be like, actually, all of these characters could come back to each other or have importance later on in other series, even if it's not their main series. So very excited to meet these guys again. But I did love how the story wrapped up. I was like, all in all, the mystery was an excellent mystery. I did not guess the plot twist. I didn't see Tori being a lesbian coming. I had kind of ruled Will out after suspecting him initially.
Yeah.
So everything was pretty wrapped up with a neat bow. We've got our Heath out of prison. Everyone's
and at the
are
birthday
dismissed.
party, you find out that Tori and
Perry
are together.
Yes.
Dating.
So we've got, and just to a refresher, they were together in the prison riot the whole time. So they've had that whole trauma. Plus, Perry helped keep her alive when she got stabbed by her husband. So that's a beautiful couple, and we love to see lesbians who don't end up dead at the end of the story.
Yes.
So I was very happy to hear that news because, again, I didn't read this chapter, so I had no idea it resolved like that.
And there's a bonus chapter on her website. All you have to do is sign up for her newsletter, which they're really fun. She'll send bonus scenes, and she's just adorable. She's a cute little Australian indie author whose family owns a llama farm.
That's so cute.
So her newsletters, it's called the Drama Llamas. And so it's pretty cute. But she has bonus chapters for every single St. View reverse harem, and then a lot of her other books she has bonus chapters for as well.
I love an indie author because I do feel like they put in the extra effort because they're doing a lot of it themselves until they get the recognition they need. And it seems like she has a ton of recognition now, and she still chooses to be
she's awesome
indie, right?
Yeah, I'm in her Facebook readers group. It's called Elle Thorpe's Drama Llamas. And she's so active. She comments on people's posts constantly. She's always posting. She does giveaways. She's really fun.
So yeah, if you're interested, if you love this series and you're going to read the rest of these stories, you should go join her Facebook group. I think that's really cool that that's active and you can participate and she'll reply back to you.
Yeah.
That's
Most
super
people
cool.
are good about when they post saying, this will be a spoiler for this. So if you haven't read it, but
Beware.
I joined the group after I read all of her books. So I was fine.
And she's replied to you before, hasn't she? Mm-hmm. That's so cute. That's like a celebrity talking to you. That's so fun.
Yes, I posted at 2023 when I read so many books. We were all posting like our top authors, and she was my top author that year. And it had a list of all the books that I had read by her. And she responded and she said, Phoebe, I think you've read every single book in my back catalog. And I said, Elle, you would be correct.
Oh, that is so cool.
I know.
Your favorite author reaching out and being like, Phoebe, you're my number one fan. And it's like, yeah, you got that fucking right. And now I'm doing a whole podcast on this. In fact, if we're not totally ashamed of these podcasts, we should definitely mention them on the Facebook group.
I already have.
Yay! I'm like, it might embarrass you if you love this author so much to be like, and by the way.
No, I already have. Yeah.
Oh, that's so fun. Time for my favorite part of the series, and we've gone over this 3 times for this series, and I think your answer is going to be the same.
Yeah, my answer is the same because I already read the whole series.
Fine, before. But who is your delusional boyfriend from this series?
Liam.
Very cute.
Yes, I love him.
You're so loyal. You're such a Leo.
Yeah, well, this is my 3rd time reading this series, so it's been the same the whole time.
I was thinking that my opinion would change and my delusional boyfriend would be Heath because each one focuses on another one.
I had a feeling yours would be Ro by the end of the series.
It's still Ro, yeah. It was Ro in the last one, it's Ro in this one. There's something about a man being vulnerable with his hole that I really appreciate. It just feels like very relatable.
Do you feel seen?
I feel seen as somebody who is on the bottom all the time and never gets to be the top participant. I really love when a man is like open to being that part of the dynamic in a relationship. I think it's shows that they're very secure in their masculinity and that they're very generous as a lover. And he's just like, he's very enthusiastic about his relationship with Heath, even though Heath is the one who kind of like pushes it forward a little more. Ro is very open to loving May and loving Heath in the same way. And he loves them both equally. He doesn't show like preference to the female. He definitely prioritizes Heath the same way he prioritizes May. So I just think Ro in general is... And he's got I'm a size queen. He's got a big old dick.
Yes.
So I'm like, yeah, I am going to be loyal to my delusional boyfriend from the second book. It's still Ro.
I love the scene where they're all laying in the bed and they don't really fit. And the guys make that joke about that. Well, if Ro's 10-inch cock wasn't in the bed, maybe we would all fit.
So good.
So funny.
And then Ro's talking to May later and he's like, I know they're just blowing smoke up my ass because they've got big dicks too. And she's like, Ro, be so for real right now.
Babe, we all have eyes. There's a side-by-side comparison every time.
Every time. We all know.
It's not that they're lacking. It's just that thing.
And that might make me shallow, but it does bring you up a point or two in my book.
It is one of my favorite parts of, I think, all reverse harems that I read, for the most part, especially like...
There's a pissing contest?
No, they just the two that don't have the biggest penis are always making jokes about the guy who does have, like, a giant schlong.
I would be too.
You do it!
And if my penis was the biggest, I would hope everyone would be talking about it. Yeah. I would be like, anyone got anything to say?
Yeah, it's great. I love it.
Look at this ruler in my pants. Okay, so do we have any other questions? I guess our other question is, would you date them in real life?
Yeah.
And absolutely.
Yeah.
Ro has a good job. He's a good father, and he's got a 10-inch dick. You tell me why I wouldn't date him in real life.
I have no reason not to date my
No, all of these men are very dateable IRL. None of them they're all green flags. They are all they all worship their woman. So they're all very secure in themselves. They're not jealous. So all of them would make amazing in real life boyfriends.
Yep. Would date.
All right. Well, that wraps up this series. So our next romance novel is going to be Vincent's story, and that's St. View Psychos. And the first book in that series that we'll be reading for April is called Start a War.
Yep.
Okay. So if you guys are joining us just for the reverse harem romance novels, you're going to want to read that series. Princess has agreed to watch some of the animes. So if you're loving our co-hosting and the episodes that Princess is going to be on, make sure to check the other ones. You should listen along anyways, just because it's fun to be a part of the whole book club. If you need a refresher of where all the titles are, it's at the delusionalboyfriendbookclub.com. And if you go there, there's a tab that says book club calendar. You can look at that and it will show you every story that we're reading as far as the anime of the month, the manga of the month, the manhwa of the month, and the reverse harem romance novel. Just a refresher, we always release episodes on the 5th, the 15th, and the 25th. And I think we're going to be doing some bonus episodes as well. So stay tuned for that. And if you want up-to-date news, go follow us on our social medias. We're really active on TikTok, pretty active on Instagram. And then we have our YouTube up. If you're watching this on YouTube, make sure that you like and subscribe and leave us a comment so that we know that you're watching here. If you are listening on a podcast, make sure that you subscribe on the podcast channel that you're listening on, whether that's Apple Podcast, Amazon Podcast, Audible, Spotify. Make sure you subscribe. That way it will auto download. So if we do a bonus episode, it just immediately is there. You won't miss out on it.
Yeah, be a nice little surprise.
Yes. Thank you so much for joining us on this book club journey. We're having the best time. It's like definitely helped my winter go by. And
the seasonal depression's being held at bay. It's great.
Yes. It's been super fun to just like indulge in a hobby and be able to talk to people online, be able to talk to my friends in real life and like be doing this all together. Usually reading is such an introverted hobby, and it's really fun to make that like a social experiment as well and get everybody together, hear people's icks and their yums and see what everybody is into. So thank you so much for being here. And until next time, remember, sometimes the delusion
is a solution.
Bye.